Excelente, etcétera.
Thrill me.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Horror Flicks and Guitar Picks podcast. I'm your host, Tim. Today I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host and the subject for the Netflix documentary, The Crash, Steven. How's it going, man?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Same old shit, man. Why'd you do that to those poor kids, man?
Couldn't help it.
No. Of course, we got a very special guest today, a returning guest, makeup effects artist, sculptor, and man of many masks, Mikey Rotella. How's it going, man?
What's up? Good to be here. I'm glad to be here with you guys. It's been a minute.
Hell yeah, we're stoked to have you back, man. You've worked on some killer stuff in the past, from Smile to Smile 2 to, I think we talked about Werewolf by Night when you're on, was another one that you worked on that was I was a big fan of and stuff. So hell yeah. But
Oh, thanks, man.
have you worked on
My
anything?
first time with Steven too on the show. So this is
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. I'm happy to chat with you.
No, hell yeah. No. Steven usually doesn't get the he does some of the guest episodes with me, but we were having you on for more of one of our topic episodes. So I'm stoked to have you on with Steven and do more of one of these episodes instead of just a basic interview because I know you're a big fan of the genre as well as working in it and stuff. So obviously looking behind you, you're a huge fan of the genre. It's pretty easy to tell. So
Oh yeah. No, I just put this up. I had all the stuff was in storage for years, and I just built this little shelf, and I'm just excited to have it
Oh, sick.
there. I can't stop messing with it. I feel like I'm on a little blockbuster.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that rules.
No, that's why I started putting shit in front of my movies because if not, I'd be always organizing them and stuff like that. But I need to get more space for movies. But no, hell yeah. And speaking of movies, have you worked on anything recently that's either out or coming out that you want to let the people know about? And then, of course, if you want to go ahead and shout out Halloween Shindig as well as for the people that didn't listen to last time's episode. And then we always start by talking about what we've been listening to and watching. If you want to go ahead and shout that stuff out as well, and then me and Steven will piggyback off of that.
Yeah, cool. I guess the most recent thing I've worked on, it's kind of a big deal right now, is The Burrows. That show
Oh.
that's on Netflix right now. It's kind of been number one or at least top 10 on Netflix since it came out, which is pretty sweet. I got to work for K&B doing some appliances and stuff on there. I didn't work on the full monster. That was another crew, but I did get to work on some of those prosthetics, which was pretty awesome. So I'm pretty proud of that. Yeah, Halloween Shindig. Always, go check out HalloweenShindig.com. It's got the best, most comprehensive Halloween playlist. All those songs from different horror movies and Halloween stuff. My buddy Derek runs it, and of course we do Shindig Radio, which is the podcast kind of companion to the website, and we get those episodes out promptly to you one a year usually something like that because it's overproduced and crazy and Derek's obsessed with it, so it winds up taking so long to produce, but they are fun and it's a fun listen. So check out Halloween Shindig for sure. But that's basically it.
Oh yeah, and I'll link those in the description as for sure. HalloweenShindig.com, and then the show has a YouTube channel, right? If I'm not mistaken.
We have a YouTube. It's called Dig TV on YouTube. But Shindig Radio, you can listen on, Spotify or iTunes, whatever you listen to podcasts on. We don't do a lot of video on there, but check us out on Instagram too. Halloween Shindig on Instagram. There's a lot of fun stuff on there, so it's pretty good time. But as far as movies, I just watched. I was telling you guys before we started, I just watched Obsession last night, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised because we probably talked about this last time I was on, but I can't stand new horror. I'm an old school, obsessed with the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very rare that I'm pleasantly surprised when I go see a movie. I did not think the Obsession trailer was that cool. I went
Same.
last night though because I heard a lot of hype, and there was a packed theater on a Tuesday, which is insane. And it was worth every second. I had a blast. It was really, really good. So 2 thumbs up recommendation on that one.
Now I caught that one for the first time too, which Steven had seen it when we recorded the Phantasm episode and said he enjoyed it. And I finally caught it myself, and I really enjoyed it as well. But I gotta say that I was really hype on it just because I listened to the show Dead Meat. They do a podcast, and they mentioned it when they saw it at a festival and said it was their film of the year. So even before it came out, I was excited because of that. And then when it came out, I was gonna go see it opening night, and then I can't remember what happened, but I just ended up not going. So it had a whole weekend to build up, and then it got to where it was hard to see because, like you said, it literally on a Tuesday night, even once Backrooms came out, it's still theaters just filled up every single showing, like pretty much past 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I finally caught it last night myself, and I really enjoyed it. And even with all the hype behind it, it still held up. So I'm excited to see what Curry Barker does next. He's already finished his next film, which is something Ghosts or something like that. But and it's supposed to be more comedy. It's got Aaron Paul in it, and I think Bryce Dallas Howard, and then of
Mm.
course he's doing Texas Chainsaw. So
Yeah, I'm pumped about that. After seeing this, I'm like, okay, I'm excited about Texas Chainsaw now because I was, me, I'm like I'm anti-remake and stuff like that, but I'm like, I don't know if anyone's gonna do it. Maybe this is the guy.
Yeah, there's definitely something to it. I was with you too, Mikey, with the trailer. When I saw it come out, I was like, like run-of-the-mill Blumhouse teen horror. I'm not gonna identify with any of these characters. Like it's gonna feel just safe or just overdone. And then yeah, just completely pleasantly surprised. Just like, oh, okay, that was actually really sick. The humor was like perfect. All the timing was great. I mean, it reminded me of like how good like Jordan Peele did with his, step into horror and just like the delivery of everything. I'm like, oh yeah, just comedy guys know how to how to get timing right. So
yeah,
Yeah, the thing that really surprised me, not to get into a whole thing about the obsession, but the timing and like you said, in the comedic aspects of it, were there, but it was
mm.
still so brutal, and
Mhm.
they didn't really jump over the line into one or the other. Like I never felt
Sure.
like it was cheesy. I didn't roll my eyes. I and the comic relief was exactly that. It didn't become a comedy. It was of like a really hardcore horror film that was really unsettling,
Yeah.
but then it was still silly and fun, but it really just kept that balance, which I was really impressed by. So
Yeah, it was legitimately hilariously uncomfortable.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the horror never suffered for the comedy at all.
Yeah.
Like, no, I definitely agree there. And I was also a little bit bigger going into it because I'd seen they did that viral film last year that was a found
Mm.
footage thing on YouTube, Milk and Cereal. I don't know if y'all checked that out, but highly recommend it. It's only like
Hmm.
60 minutes, and it's a little found footage thing that him and the guy that plays like the best friend in Obsession, because that's like the troupe that's been coming up. I think his name's Coop or something, but
Hmm.
they did that together, and that's really good as well. And it's on YouTube for free, so definitely check that out. It's Milk and Cereal, but cereal spelled like serial killer, So
Yeah, I
Oh,
remember
nice.
seeing it get a bunch of hype, and I just never watched it. There's probably so many shorts out there. Like I know there's like all the like fan made films for like the Friday the 13th stuff that people love that I really need to like dive into more. But yeah, I need to see that one for sure.
you know. No, and I will say that speaking of, I mentioned Dead Meat. He did an interview with him that I listened to today because I finally saw the film, and I was like, didn't want to listen to it before with possibility of spoilers and stuff. And he did mention that he's like watching all the Texas Chainsaw movies, and like he's even watching like he watched like 3 and 4 with like Viggo Mortensen and Ken
Mm.
Foray and stuff, and then of course Matthew McConaughey. But then he's even watching like the new ones, And yeah, they asked him about Leatherface, the new one that's like a where like the twist is that the pretty kid is actually Leatherface, not the freaking chubby kid or whatever. And he was like, I don't know if I should slander any of these movies publicly, so I'm just not going to talk about it. I was like, that's my kind of guy, shitting on the right one. So, no, when I heard that, I got hope for him for sure, And then of course seeing the brutality that he went with and stuff. But no, hell yeah. But anything else that you might have caught, or even maybe some new music that you've been checking out?
Just real quick, not to derail, but you just mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all that stuff. So have you guys seen that like AI Nike commercial?
Mm-mm.
So check that out on YouTube. Somebody just made like a Nike commercial about Leatherface. That's all I'll say. You know what I mean? And
What?
I don't know if you guys are super anti AI or whatever, but I'm actually strangely entertained by a lot of these random AI videos. I'm like I would watch 2 hours of this. So
Mhm.
check that out. It's a pretty fun little Leatherface thing. But
Yeah, no,
that's
I'll
for
have to
another
check it
time.
out. Yeah, it's gotten pretty crazy what they're doing right now. There's another like independent director filmmaker, this guy Scott Hansen that did this movie Devour. Um, and he's been posting a lot of like that kind of stuff, like kind of in a way of like he's like, dude, I'm all for like practical effects and doing it the hard way and everything, but he's like also like this is what's happening in the industry, so like he's like I'm gonna be keeping a close eye on it, and so he's been sharing some stuff. He's like, this is kind of crazy, I'm sure.
Devour looks cool too. My buddy Wayne Anderson did those creature effects,
Oh,
so
no way. Oh,
I'm
hell yeah.
excited for that whenever that comes out.
No, yeah.
Heck yeah.
No,
Yeah,
and
as
I
far
did,
as music, I'm trying to think what I've been listening to lately. Um, I don't know. I've been on this Conan kick. I don't know if you guys like doom metal band Conan. Really excited about those guys. I haven't seen them live yet. They just came to LA too, and I was kind of pissed that I missed it. But um, that's I've missed mostly been listening to stuff like that like lately.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? A lot of stoner doom metal stuff.
Hell yeah.
no, no, you made me remember a AI video I caught the other day that was actually pretty cool. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not for AI just because of like what it is doing to like the economy and stuff like that. If it wasn't for that aspect of it, I would be for it. You know what I mean? But just the data centers being built and shit like that. But that's a whole rabbit hole to go down. But
Mhm.
the video I saw that I was like, this is kind of cool was Ernest fighting Jason Voorhees, and it was
Like
like,
Ernest P. Worrell.
yeah, and it
Oh
looks
yeah.
so fucking real, dude. I was like, this is kind of why AI should exist. Like, if it's gonna exist, this is
God
why. So,
damn.
no, it looks so real. I was like, holy fuck, this is awesome. But
So was it like Ernest goes to Camp Crystal Lake? Like,
yeah,
is that the
Dude,
God damn it. I want to see that
perfect.
so bad.
right.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Jim Varney.
Yeah, they always say John Cena should play him. I kind of see it nowadays. Like,
Oh, weird. Yeah. Yeah, that
That's
is
so
funny.
good.
if it wasn't for the voice, it'd be one thing, but I don't think he
Hmm.
could pull that part off. But
Yeah.
no, hell yeah. What about you, Steven? Have you seen or been listening to anything since? I know we just recorded Phantasm
Yeah.
4 and 5 last week, so
I just went and saw Backrooms over the weekend.
oh,
And I really enjoyed it. It's funny because so my daughter's 13 and she likes horror and is like slowly like getting into some of the classics. Like, I was talking to Tim on a recent episode, like she watched Texas Chainsaw for the first time. And like I was telling Tim, like the classic the hammer scene and the door slam, like the first like Leatherface. I'm like waiting because she'll watch some like 80s stuff and be like, that was really cool. And then some she's like, that's kind of corny. So I'm like waiting. I'm like, please, like, let this pay off, like, still hit. And she like screamed so loud. And she was like, I did not like that. And I was just like, hell yeah, okay, this still works. So yeah. Yeah, anyway, so she's had heard about Backrooms because of all the like YouTube, and TikTok hype from it, which I'm like, it's kind of funny to like see like kids today getting their information that way versus like not like Fangoria magazine or whatever. So yeah, she was all hyped. She's like, can I go see this movie? And I'm like, yeah, I want to see this movie, so of course we can go see it. So yeah, she liked it. I think she thought it was a little weird. But hey, I was just stoked that she wanted to go see something that wasn't just like Scream 100 or something like that.
you
Something
know,
a little cooler. So
Conjuring
yeah.
4 or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. No, not to knock those movies, but I get what you mean.
Oh,
It's like,
totally. Yeah.
yeah, I don't even like. I like watching those movies, but I don't really care to go see them in the theaters just because they're not. I don't find them as creepy or scary as like a Backrooms or Obsession, which I haven't seen Backrooms yet, but that is in my goal. But anything else that you want to mention before I throw out my little list?
As far as that, no, just Backrooms and then just watching a ton of Widow's Bay. I'm like obsessed with this show. It's
Yeah.
been so rad. I can't wait for you to check it out. And I just found out one of the recent episodes was done by Ty West. He
Fuck
directed
yeah.
it. So I was super psyched to see that. So pretty cool. But yeah.
Yeah, he like sneakily does TV. Like I remember he did that show
Yeah.
Them or whatever that we
Yep.
mentioned on the last when we did our
Yeah, and
uncomfortable
that the
scenes.
episode that he did was like gnarly too. So, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Damn, I want to watch both those shows actually. I haven't started either one.
Mhm.
Yeah, Them is an anthology series. I haven't watched season 2, but season 1 was really good, and that had
Mhm.
a episode or even 2 directed by Ty West as well. And it
Yeah.
there's a scene in that whole season that like messes me up more than like most horror movies that I've seen. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
uh,
Wait, I think I did watch that first season. Now that I think about it,
Mm.
and that's what the pillowcase and all that.
yeah, the cat in the bag scene. Yeah, that,
Okay.
Yeah, that was that was messed up,
Yeah.
dude.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
nah,
Widow's Bay's great. It has like the perfect, again, back to like the humor thing. Like it jumps from like horror to like this dry humor in such a fun way. I love it. But yeah,
So hard to do too. I'm always
yeah.
impressed by that when it's done right.
Yeah, and that's a show I've heard some people go into it thinking it's like going to be more comedy, like with just a sprinkle of horror because of the way it's promoted, and they're like, "Fuck, it's
Mm.
really scary." So, you
Yeah, yeah,
know,
no, it's got some like legit good like horror elements to it where my wife's like, it's getting scary,
yeah,
and then but
oh yeah. Now my list is kind of short. Like I mentioned, I saw Obsession. We already chatted about that. But then I caught up on Send Help and The Mummy, which I actually
mm,
really enjoyed both. I really enjoyed The Mummy. I get everybody's critique about it feeling like an Evil Dead film just with like the mummy casing, but
mm,
fuck it, I like it. I feel like, in my opinion, instead of it feeling like an Evil Dead film, to me it just feels like Lee Cronin is very inspired by Sam Raimi and like his like
mm,
tone of film. And I feel like
sure.
that's what carries over. He just doesn't do all the same camera tricks, so it doesn't feel like he's trying to completely steal Sam Raimi's vibe, but he keeps the same like campiness and tone. You know what I mean? Like you could watch this film back to back with Drag Me to Hell, not even Evil Dead, and it still feel like similar in tone. So I really enjoyed The Mummy. It's probably gonna be higher on my list of the year than a lot of other people's, just because I think a lot of people went in expecting a pure mummy film, and this still could have sequels that follow that a little bit more, but. Um, then the only thing I've been listening to is Maximum Penalty. I'm super into that band, and they finally dropped their album from the mid '90s. They re-released it called Independent on like streaming and stuff. So I've just been listening to
Mm.
that. And that's something I've been listening to for like over a month. I just keep forgetting to shout it out on the show, but definitely check out Maximum Penalty's Independent if you haven't checked that out already. So uh, probably I would say if it wasn't a re-release, it'd probably be album of the year. So I can't I can't count it, but no, it's just one of those that it's been like not available at all though, you know what I mean? So it's been so long since I've even heard it, you know. So I've or like without just putting like a song randomly on the TV or something, you know, so on YouTube. So it's exciting to actually be able to just jam through the record again, you know, without having to go through the trouble of hunting it down and stuff. But hell yeah. And I don't think I've even mentioned what today's topic actually is at the
Mhm.
front of the episode, but I'm gonna throw in my best infomercial voice because we're gonna title this one Makeup Effects Gone Wild and try to go with the
Oh God.
try to go with the Girls Gone Wild logo infomercial guy, but uh, that's kind of what sparked this whole idea was just to make just for some reason use the Gone Wild part of the logo. But
Mm,
no, we're pretty much going to talk about behind the scenes effects that have gone wrong and stuff like that. But before we do that, I've mentioned to you guys before we like dove into recording that I was going to pose the question: do you guys think that there is a standout effect over the past decade that can kind of stand the test of time with some of those classics? We always talk about 80s, even sometimes 90s, and definitely 70s horror films and their practical effects. But
mm.
with the return and the boom of practical effects coming back, and Mikey, you being a part of that, what's is there an effect that has stood out to you guys in the past, decade?
I like I was saying, I love all the old stuff and everything, but everybody says, "Oh, you don't like stuff that's new." And I'm like, "No,
Mm,
actually I have a list, like this comprehensive list I've been making over the last 15, 10, 10, 15 years of my favorite newer stuff, and a lot of it will hinge on whether or not they have like practical creature effects and stuff like that because I love to see that. I mean, it's kind of a boom like you said, it's kind of back. My big thing over the last few years, I think it was 23, I guess was When Evil Lurks.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that
mm,
was awesome. It was one of my favorite movie of that year, I think. And that big bloated, dude in the bed was like expert, badass, well done creature suit,
mm.
in this guy, and all the effects in that movie were amazing. And that's one that definitely jumps out to me. You know,
Oh yeah. No, they made a stationary person terrifying, and it's hard to do that. So it's
yeah.
no, I definitely agree.
Terrifying and disgusting. Like
Yeah.
you're just like, oh gosh, what is what is gonna come out of this dude?
Yeah. No, we actually got to see that in theaters. Me and Steven at
Mm,
we got lucky and it was playing at a local Regal that actually shut down since then, and
yeah.
so we got to catch that in theaters. It was just us two, and
Yeah.
we were in there vocally being like, "Oh, what the fuck!" Like when certain
Yeah.
scenes are happening and stuff. So
That
Oh,
one was so
I
cool.
wish I saw that in theater.
Yeah,
yeah,
It's
that one was
awesome.
rad because I had zero like you're just like, hey, you want to come see this movie? I'm like, yeah, horror movie. Sure, I'm down. I had zero context, like went completely blind into it. Other than I remember you mentioning it was like the same director that did that Shutter. Was it for Shutter that they did?
yeah, I think it
Um,
got originally released on Shudder Terrified.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was like, oh, I remember seeing the cover of that, but I never actually watched it. And yeah, and then when we saw it, I was like, dude, this is sick. This is like the best horror film I've seen in a really long time. Um, yeah, it was very good, very bleak. Not a easy one to like recommend to like the casual horror fan for sure. But yeah.
oh yeah, Terrified's up there as well. It's got some stuff.
Mhm.
Terrified's probably got an actual scare in it that I would put up there as like one of my favorites of the past
Mhm.
decade, where the guy is like filming himself in the like with the wardrobe, and he like gets up and checks the tape, and the guy's like under the bed or whatever. Like that whole shit, everything in that movie
That was
just
good.
is scary. I'm so excited for Damien Rugna's future. But what about you, Steven? Do you have a effect that sticks out?
Ah, gosh. I mean, it's when you put me on the spot like that, it everything is like blended together, but I don't know. I'd probably have to say like probably the substance. I mean, just the all of the like surgical like needle shit that they do was just like so uncomfortable. And then of course the big monster Sue like transformation at the end and like spraying blood everywhere. Like that was so good. It was so rubbery and like slimy and gross and like yeah, no, it just made me happy. It just reminded me of like, society and stuff that I love from the 80s. So yeah, it was sick.
Yeah,
No, I totally agree with that one. I love that one too. And the thing that really did for me was like the levels of gore and effects that because we had like a really nice, clean, a bunch of medical stuff and body horror stuff and the
Mhm.
the old age stuff, and then it just got like more 80s style, schlocky as it went on. We called
Mhm.
it boogity, you know what I mean, in the business. I love that stuff though. Like that's sometimes that's like a derogatory term, like, oh, that stuff looks too boogity. I love that.
Mhm.
And by the end, when you had that full suit and everything, that was full on boogity, and that's my favorite thing. And it was cool because it's like an indie, foreign, you know, kind of art house
Mhm.
wannabe horror movie. But finally, it's inclusive for all the trauma fans that are out there too. It's not like making you feel bad because you're into like Larry Cohen or Lloyd Kaufman, you
Sure.
know what I mean? And I really love that. And that's why, yeah, that one gets a seal of approval too.
Yeah, didn't you chatted with the effects guy for that film, right, Tim? Didn't you have him on?
yeah. Pierre Olivier
Yeah.
Person. Yeah, he was a Oscar winner, fucking for The Substance, which is
Yeah,
awesome. That
crazy.
it also won an Oscar, but which will also be a reason it stands out for forever. You know what I mean? As one of the top things is because it'll be talked about as an Oscar winner and
Yeah.
stuff. But no, it was one of those I got lucky. Pretty much like I saw the movie and the movie was buzzing, but his name hadn't really broken through in interviews yet, and so I reached out to him personally, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm down." And the only thing that sucks is I told him to go full spoilers, but you could tell he still didn't want to. And I'm
Mm.
like, dude, like by the time people hear this, like they'll seen the movie, you know what I mean? So,
Sure, sure.
but so I wish I could get him to like, I wish I could have got him to talk about certain things a little bit more because he tried to dance around like the movie a little bit too much, and I was like, come on, just get it. But he was like super sweet guy. He's I think he's French, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty
So
sure he was French, yeah.
yeah,
I just thought it was interesting. I really when in that episode he's talking about how like in the early stages of that film, I think he said what it was it like Sony was gonna potentially produce that movie.
yeah,
And then there was like so many more restrictions. And then when what is it, Mubi or how do you pronounce the studio that it wasn't it Mubi
yeah.
that
That's
does
how I
it?
say it. I don't know.
Yeah. And like just let them go full ham with everything. And I can't imagine what that movie would have looked like if it had like more commercial restraints to it. Like just don't think it could have worked.
Yeah,
So,
hell yeah. To finish up the question, and to give my answer and something kind of recent is I was kind of thinking of two different things. One is the design of the alien from Nope. I'm a big fan of just
mm,
like the way it looks at the end and just the way that it's a cloud. Like it just changes like your thought of like kind of does the thing of like where now when you look at something you have a second thought of like it like you can immediately just attach it to a horror movie for no reason at all. Just be like, oh, that cloud's been sitting there a while. But the one that I really decided to go and that's kind of more visual effect. So I decided to go with an actual practical effect. And the reason I love practical effects is how uncomfortable they make you feel and how realistic they can truly make things look. And I went with the kid from Talk to Me
I
bashing
was
his head
hoping you were
against
gonna
the
say this. Yeah.
fucking against the mantle. Like when he does that, that scene like made me feel more that scene and the like later on in the film when he hits his head against the bathtub, like both of those scenes are just so brutal and like I'm like, oh dude, like freaking just makes you feel so uncomfortable. It got you clenching, that's for sure. So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, that had all those crazy makeups too of like the like different ghosts and people like spirits
Mhm.
stuck in hell or whatever. Really great work. Really clean makeups.
yeah, those quick glimpses when they would do like the possessions and it would just show like different ghosts randomly and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of things I'm sure if you paused on too, there's even cooler stuff that you probably blink and miss it type stuff. So
Shoot, I'd have to say honorable mention too is Bring Her Back, the knife scene in the mouth. Like, I mean, and I want to say I heard like they couldn't figure out how to shoot it right, so they literally like had to like use a knife in a mouth like against teeth to make the noise, and like there's something about that though. They're like we just kind of had to like do it safely, and then yeah, such a gross scene.
That's
yeah,
sick. I think it's the same team too, a makeup effects group from
Yeah.
Australia. I think did both of those pretty sick stuff.
no, yeah. No, and they could. That was exactly. They couldn't get the sound for the teeth thing, and so one of the brothers went in there. I'm not sure which one. He just grabbed a knife and started chewing on it, and
Ugh.
it was like,
But I mean, but
crazy.
that's the thing, dude. Like that's the whole point of it being practical is like you try to do something like that in post or even I mean, Foley can be pretty great, but like when you do something on camera and you get the actual thing, the physical effect, like that just like sells it so much harder. I don't know.
And that sound design is gonna take it to the next level. Like that's just as important as any of the prosthetics or blood
Mhm.
or whatever.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And those guys have been spending the last several months deathmatch wrestling. That's how wild those dudes are. So they're
Like them
literally.
themselves?
Yeah, I know one of
Oh.
them for sure has been, but they're making a documentary about deathmatch wrestling, and you can go find clips right now. They literally jump off of like the super high thing onto like a like weave of barbed wire. They're like doing wild shit. They're not just out there barely. They're not out there David Arquetteing it. They're just
Oh
getting
gosh.
killed pretty much. But uh,
That's awesome. I love hearing that. I can't wait to see that.
That
no,
sounds
yeah.
sick.
And then of course after that, I know they're signed on to do a Talk to Me eventually, but I think they have another film that they want to do. I know they said they want to do a sci-fi film, so excited for those dudes' future for sure. So another YouTube uh, group of YouTubers turned filmmakers, just like Curry Barker and stuff. So, but we can dive into our makeup effects gone wrong. For me here, I thought we would kick it off with a little segment of when using real stuff goes wrong. And pretty much by that, I mean when you just skip the practical effects and go with using the real life thing and you fuck around and find out. And I think one of the most famous one of the most famous I can't think of the word I'm looking for. One of the most famous examples of this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre with them putting the real food, like rotten food and stuff like that, and with the heat, turning that food
Mm.
rotten, and they pretty much have to suffer through that. And then the only other two that I was going to mention, and we could talk about these all together as a segment, is when people use like real life animals. You got the birds with Alfred Hitchcock, and then you also got Roar, the famous film Roar with uh who is that? I know Melanie Griffith. What's her mom?
Tippy
The
Hedren?
Uh,
Debbie Hedren, yeah, yeah, yeah.
mm.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
uh, that whole like film thing is like so hard to find because it's literally people getting mauled by fucking tigers for real, so or lions or whatever. But have you ever experienced anything like this, Mikey, where like somebody's tried to use something for real and it's gone wrong, like especially like with food or maybe even just something that they thought would hold that didn't, or an animal
Yeah,
got?
man. Actually, specifically happened to me on this low budget, like kind of slasher Texas Chainsaw kind of a thing called Staunton Hill. We worked on in 2007. My buddy Kevin Kirkpatrick was like heading up all the makeup effects. He's a huge makeup artist now and like a really great awesome dude. But back then, like we were kind of relatively unknown. We were working for Cameron Romero, George Romero's son,
Mm.
who directed that movie Stonehill. It's definitely worth a watch. Check it out. It's very Texas Chainsaw basically. But there was a scene where a girl had to get gutted, and so we made a silicone body, and the killer has to cut into her stomach and pull her intestines out. But nothing looks like intestines. Like you can make the
Mhm.
best silicone intestines or vinyl, whatever, and they're always gonna like just lack something. So I was like, "Oh, we're in Pennsylvania shooting." I'm like, "There's got to be a slaughterhouse around here. We could get some pig intestines." And so they sent some PA to bring us pig intestines. But what I didn't know because I don't know anything about like real like pig intestines or even humans, whatever. It's like intestines don't just come out like a string like you see in the movies, you know.
Mhm.
They've got all this fascia and like, viscera that holds them together into like kind of a clump of wound up intestines.
Mhm.
So it was my job to literally take like an X-Acto blade and carve all of those little pieces of viscera off and stretch the intestine out as long as it could, which was almost like 20 feet of intestine, you know.
Yeah.
Oh
But
shit.
then it's filled with like bile and stuff, you know what I mean? And for f lack of a better term, shit is all up in the intestines. So I
Yeah.
had to actually run a tube through there and wash out the intestines into the parking lot in like the middle of fall and right outside Pittsburgh. And I'm out there, I'm covered in like pig shit, literally, and then I have to put them in a bucket, bring them on set. And they've got the whole set lit, and they've got this poor actor, lady in the thing. And I've got to fill the empty stomach with these intestines. And she couldn't hack it. Like she had to get out of there. So they're like, look, we're gonna pull in close just on the stomach, get her out of the shot completely great. But even that, when the killer's pulling that stuff out, the whole crew started getting sick. Like people, like they couldn't breathe. The camera guy was like, gagging. And I'm underneath the table with these intestines, like feeding them up there with all this fake blood. So now you have like Caro syrup, that sweet, sugary smell
Mhm.
with the pig shit and intestines and stuff.
Oh
And
my
I thought it was
God.
hilarious, honestly. I was just laughing at everybody. At this point, I had become pretty accustomed to pig shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my own little weird Day of the Dead moment where we used real
Mhm.
guts,
Hell yeah. Yeah, that would I love that too. I love that like you said, you got to be like completely desensitized to it because you had to spend so
Yes.
much time. So it's like complete shock for everybody else, but you're like, man, it's kind of nice.
I was like, dude, you should have seen these things 20 minutes ago. They were way worse. Like I cleaned them. Like, you know what I'm
Right. Like, go stand over there and tell me how you smell.
uh,
saying? Yeah, seriously. Looked
No.
great though.
yeah, that
Oh yeah.
rules.
That's wild. That's something people don't think about is like the cleanup part, you know what I mean? Especially if you're like doing a rush thing, you know what I mean? It's one thing if you order it like because I would assume there's somewhere to get like f- pre-cleaned intestines, but when you're on a
Yeah.
budget, it's a little different. But I would hope not. Shit, that's there's an island somewhere. I'm sure you can get some pre-cleaned intestines if you know what I mean. But if you,
Dude, people have a hard time just deveining shrimp. Like,
right,
yeah.
people just eat the
Oh
shit and
yeah.
they're just like, I'm
Yeah.
just eating them. But
That's so funny.
do you have anything in this vein, Steven? And if not, do you just want to go ahead and start with one of your?
Yeah, actually, this is a perfect little mini subject segment. One of the ones that I pulled up, it's one of my funny, and I wore my Phenomena shirt. Um, in that film, you've got a live chimpanzee. It's especially back in the day when, they didn't use like animatronics. They're like, yeah, let's just use an animal, and apparently Jennifer Connelly, she's 15 filming this movie, and the very end of the film, the chimpanzee like saves her from the killer, and when they were filming it, I guess the chimp kept like turning away from the camera. And so Argento was like Jennifer, like grab the monkey. So he stays like, and the thing just like bit her finger, like almost bit her fingertip off. She had to get rushed to the hospital. It was like the last scene that they were filming. Um, but apparently like that wasn't the only thing that happened. Like I had heard that story and like the more that I was looking it up, like it bit Jennifer Connelly's finger. Uh, I guess it kept escaping too. Um, and like they would like lose the monkey and they would have to like shut down production while they were like trying to find it because it would like get lost in like the surrounding woods and stuff like that. Because of like the stuff with her getting bit, like they used like a body double to like finish the scenes for her because Jennifer Connelly was like it became agitated after that, you
Yeah.
know. So like she wouldn't film with it anymore, which is like I wouldn't blame her if you just got attacked by a monkey because they're no joke. I mean, you've heard stories of like owners that have owned chimpanzees, Uh, and then also I guess Daria Nicoletti, um, there's like a scene where she like uses a straight razor, and so they had this like dull like prop straight razor, um and the chimpanzee like kills her with it, in the film. And I guess like, they're strong as crap, and it still like slashed her and like left like a permanent scar. So it's just like funny to think, like, I mean, obviously everybody was fine, and that's, scary to happen, but like, using real animals, to like do these scenes, and like the unpredictability of it. And like, you can't do that today. There's like so many rules and regulations that, I'm sure like back in the, especially the 70s and early 80s, and in Italy, where they have probably way less rules and whatnot. I don't know. Yeah, that one is one that I thought fits perfect with uh your animal segment of this. But yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I'm a huge chimp attack fan. Like,
Mhm.
I wish there was video of that chimp attacking Jennifer Connelly. I know it's terrible that it happened to
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
and
totally.
it's
Yeah.
terrible when they use live animals on films because I feel bad for the animals, But I'm a big fan of that type of stuff, and like, I'm the kind of psycho that likes to watch the chimp attack. You know what I mean? And that's why I liked Primate a lot, as even though it didn't go as far as I really wanted it to go.
Sure.
You can't have a chimp attack movie where no genitals get ripped off. It's like, come on, what do you know what I mean? But I didn't know about the razor blade with Daria Nickelodeon. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Like that's nuts.
Yeah, because they're super strong. It's not like, they're not like just this, they're not, little puppy dogs. Like it's a strong animal. Yeah, but
That's
crazy.
awesome.
And I remember when we covered Opera, that lead actress said that
Mhm.
she like hated Dario Argento after the film, and I mean, so it just makes you wonder if it was the nails in her fucking eyes the whole time. Like,
Oh, yeah.
that couldn't have been comfortable. I mean, it definitely never went wrong enough for her to be like blinded or nothing by it, but definitely got to think that they didn't make it comfortable for her and stuff. And that was the thing, is like you said, in Italy, the way that they did like young actors and stuff like that, because like even like the tragedy that happened on the Twilight Zone, which isn't one I was going to bring up, but I guess it does
Mhm.
technically count. But the tragedy that happened on the Twilight Zone, he was doing illegal shit. If he was following rules, that would have never happened. And so that's the thing, is like there was rules set in place to like keep children safe, even back in the 80s. It's just, who knows what they were doing in Italy, you know what I mean? So Jennifer Connelly, if it would have happened here, she might have gotten pulled off a set by by SAG or whoever, but
Oh,
uh
yeah.
happening
I,
over there.
I can only imagine.
But oh yeah, we can dive into some. And now pretty much after that, well, I guess this one's kind of a good piggyback because it's not a real animal thing, but it's a practical effect gone wrong. And this is a film I actually got to see in the movie theaters. It's Anaconda: The Hunt for the Blood Orchid, the the sequel Anaconda. And there's a scene in this movie where they get attacked by a bunch of leeches. And they made silicone leeches, but they like super glued them to everybody. So when the time came to like take them off, like people were literally pulling their own skin off and shit. And like so like people lost skin and like were just in a lot of pain and shit like that. So
Oh my
uh
God.
I didn't look up like who did this film or nothing like makeup effect wise, but or even, that doesn't mean, this could have been a thing where they had a makeup effect guy make all these silicone things, send them to set, and then some dumbass on set was like, "Well, glue them to them," you know what I mean? So it's not
Mhm.
always the makeup effect guy's, fault that this type of shit happens. But have you ever had anything like that happen to you, Mikey, where it's been like effects got like makeup getting stuck, or like, even if it was like in your early days, where you're first learning and stuff?
I mean, it's wild to know how often stuff like that does happen. You know what I mean? Because a lot of
Mhm.
people, they'll have like legit makeup people there, but then there's always PAs, there's always some people that are like interns or assisting, and you never really know who's grabbing what on set.
Mhm.
And I've heard lots of stories about super glue, which is like should never be anywhere near a human being. Like if you need to be careful when you're using super glue for the right reasons. Just don't get it on your hands. You know what I mean? Let alone
Mhm.
glue it to someone's face or whatever else. It's absolutely insane, and it should never happen. But um, one of my favorite stories like that was when I was back in makeup school. I went to Tom Savini's school in Pennsylvania,
Oh,
and
sick.
there was this kid that was relatively new, and they were supposed to be doing a life cast, and so we had two bins of this white powder, right? And one bin was the dental alginate, which you put on your face, and that's supposed to make a copy of the life cast, like that's what it's made for. But the other bin was hydrocal, which is a stone that has like a thermogenic reaction where it heats up and it becomes like rock hard, literally,
Hmm.
you know. And that kid grabbed the hydrocal instead of the alginate and he slapped it on some dude's face. And the funny thing is, the dude, had a beard like yours, Tim, and like,
Oh,
he didn't want to shave for it, but he was like, "Oh, we'll be able to pull it out of the alginate." But it wasn't alginate; it was this hydrocal stone. So that dude literally had a stone mask on his face that they had to go in and chisel off his face and then try to snip with cuticle scissors the beard hair and stuff out of there and get him out. Funny thing
oh,
about it was there was a scheduled fire drill from the local like volunteer fire department. So we had a fire drill in the middle of the winter in the rain where that dude had to go out with this thing stuck on his head and
oh,
wait
that's
for the whole
so
place
good.
to get cleared for this whole fire ordinance thing. It was hilarious, dude. And I was laughing the whole time. It's like, these people are idiots and they didn't do the right thing or listen to what they had to do. And
Mhm.
that was brutal, though. That guy lost a lot of his beard and some skin that day.
Fuck.
Ugh.
How's he
Ugh.
breathing? Shit. Dude, I would be in full panic mode as soon as somebody was like, "Oh, wrong thing." What? Like, I'd rip my fucking skin off just to get it out of my nostrils or whatever, or mouth way.
And it burns you too. So he had like burns and missing skin and all. It was brutal.
Once when I was a
That's
kid, I was walking past a pole when it was like snowing outside, and somebody was like, "If you stick your tongue, it gets stuck." And I stuck my tongue to it, and literally instead of doing anything like getting my mom or nothing, I just said, "Rip that bitch right off," because I was
ugh.
like, "Not, I'm not gonna be stuck here," and it hurt. I gotta say, I hadn't seen A Christmas Story at that point in my life, and I wish I had.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
that's hilarious. You did a flick.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the makeup mishaps that I found, like researching and whatnot, are revolve around like getting stuck to something. Like I read that what is it, Stephen Joffrey's that plays Evil Ed in Fright Night, during his like werewolf transformation. Um, they wanted to like give him like really stringy saliva and stuff like that, and I guess somebody accidentally grabbed like some kind of prosthetic adhesive, and it like glued his lips together and he couldn't like properly open his mouth and stuff like that, and they had to like carefully free him without like damaging also like the prosthetic appliances that are added to him and everything. Like that was one that I saw. Like Evil Dead has a ton of stuff like that, like the original, just because I mean, that was so early on, independent, like, they're just like making stuff up on the fly, reading like eyelashes getting ripped off because prosthetics got glued wrong, or they used like acrylic paint, on their faces and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. It's I love the like the just get it done attitude, especially with like this early stuff, because there wasn't, uh necessarily like a perfect roadmap, I guess, probably to how to do it. So they're just like, yeah, let's try this. And yeah, next thing you know, your mouth is glued shut.
Yeah. Especially back
I mean,
then.
even when that stuff like glues with like the real glue, the stuff you're supposed to use. I
Mm.
mean, it's still really weird when your eyes like not opening. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
it's like there's a simple solvent you just put on there and it opens up like, but it's just for a second there. I can imagine as an actor, like you start to freak out a little bit. Like, wait,
Oh,
why is my
sure.
lip stuck together? Why is my eye stuck shut? And nobody knows what you're putting on their face. Like you're trying to let them know what's going on, even if you're doing like the most safe job it can freak people out. So you really got to let them know exactly what's going on.
Well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
and I feel like all of the like even the makeup effect artists, like when you see photos of them from the 80s, they're all like hair metal punk dudes and stuff like that. And like even today, they're all dirt bags and like just artsy kids. So like if you're an actor that's like not around that scene, especially doing like a horror film for like the first time, and you just have these like metalheads and stuff, they're like, yeah, 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 you'll be fine. Like it's not like it's a doctor coming up to you and and you feel like, I don't know, I can only imagine that's probably like doesn't give the most confidence sometimes, but yeah.
that's why mostly I'm a shop rat. I'm sculpting in the shops. They never let
Mm.
me on set near the actors because it's like keep that guy away from everybody.
You scare him away. That's so funny.
Nah, nah. the piggyback off of Evil Dead, that was the one I was going to bring up was Henrietta's suit in Evil Dead 2 caused Ted Raimi to sweat so bad that in the film, when you see this gunk come out of Henrietta's ears, that is actually the real sweat from Ted Raimi, and there was just holes in the ears,
Ugh.
so you could like hear and stuff. And literally, so like, I'm not 100%. I wanted to like rewatch it before, or just like look for the scene before we jumped on, but I forgot. I think there's a scene where the sweat literally comes out onto Bruce Campbell's face, and it's literally like, and that's all like truly Ted Raimi's sweat. And they said that like Daly, I think it was Greg Nicotero that was in charge of, because they worked on
Mm.
this film, but then they didn't create K&B until Intruder. But when they were all working on this film, I believe it was Nicotero who was in charge of draining the sweat out of the suit daily from Ted Raimi's. uh, Shout out to that one. So next time you work with Nicotero, ask him how that sweat smelled. If it smelled incomparable to the pig guts, but
Ugh.
Yeah, man. He hates those old stories, you know what I mean? It's like, he's a big deal now, but he started at the
Mm.
bottom like everybody else too, and he doesn't like talking about a lot of that shit.
yeah.
That's so funny.
No, yeah. No, and that's the thing about like back then is like everybody like all like we're talking about all these professionals, but the thing
Mm.
is there was no like it's still figuring it all out. You know what I mean? There's no
Mm.
looking it up online. Even if you're trying to call somebody, if you can't get them on a landline, that's pretty much your last. Like if they're busy working on a film too, you don't even know where they're at if they're out on set, and so it's just hard to reach out to people and get info on like how to knock out these certain things. So no, I could definitely understand where it's like a lot more like trial and error. Using paint that makes somebody faint on accident, or accidentally gluing somebody's eyes shut or some shit just because you're like, oh, I thought
Mm.
that was going to be okay, but or that we'd be able to get it off with paint thinner and that's not working, or shit like that. But
Even in the best circumstances too, when you're doing like the best job, it's still horribly uncomfortable for the people involved. You know
Oh,
what I
I
mean?
can
Like the
imagine.
actors, especially if they're in the big suits like that. Like, there's almost no way to make that a comfortable experience. Life
Mm.
casting is the worst. Being in a creature suit is the worst. And you know people have sensitive skin sometimes, and you don't necessarily hire somebody based on their skin sensitivity. You hire them for other reasons, and then you find out about their skin sensitivities later, right?
Mm.
And there are all kinds of makeup, materials that are on the market even today, like this stuff called collodion, which is a plastic that you put on and it starts to shrink. So it creates like, this recessed, almost scar look,
Mm.
and it's amazing, and it does really awesome things, but it's literally taking your skin and like crushing it and sucking it in, and
Oh,
you have to
wow.
peel that stuff off. It becomes hard, and that destroys people's skin, and it's like, so you have to take care of their skin as much as you have to mess it up in the first place. And if you're not doing, the end part of that, which is really caring for their skin, make sure they're healing up. If you've got, you know, 20 days straight of shooting with that same makeup in the same spot, I mean, you're gonna have some serious skin issues, on your face. And actors don't like when you mess with their face, you know what I mean?
Oh gosh, yeah, I can only imagine.
no,
And that's in the
especially
best case scenario.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some stories of like applications where somebody has a rash and like I'm just imagining some, high level actor that's just like, I can't believe like like that's gotta happen all the time. But yeah.
no, I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody that like famously went in and was like, "You got this amount of time to do it, or you're not doing it." And I can't remember who it was or a occasion. It was somebody like big, like Harrison Ford of
Mm.
stature, not him exactly, but and I can't remember what it was, but there was like a famous story where they were like, "You have 5 hours," and they were like, it might have been like Tom Cruise or something, but and they were like,
Mm.
"We can't do that. Like that's not gonna work." But it always makes me think of I think you should leave. Where he's like, "I got all this fucking shit on me. I can't stand it."
Yeah, Carl Havoc.
Yeah.
It's such a good sketch.
But no, do you have any that you want to shout out, Steven, before I keep going, or
Um, yeah, I guess one of the things that it's less makeup effects, but I feel like it could be like a good segment and segue is kind of talking about like the counterpart to makeup, and that's like more like prop based stuff. And I feel like there's some good ones. I know like Nightmare on Elm Street has the solid one. There's the infamous like Tina death, where she's in the room and she's like crawling on the ceiling. And so they built that room, and then when they did Johnny Depp's kill scene and he gets sucked down the bed and the blood comes flying up, like that whole room was like enclosed room and everything that they flipped upside down. And one of the stories I think I was from like the what's the documentary? Never Walk Alone, or what's shoot? What
Never sleep again.
Never Sleep Again. Never Walk Alone is Liverpool's mantra. But yeah, Never Sleep Again. Like they say that when they filled that room, they're like, all right, yeah, we got this thing upside down. It's like a one shot take. They've got like all these people like on cranes and like operating this like box room. And, they're pouring gallons and gallons of blood into it. And they didn't like account for the light that was in there. So like people are getting electrocuted while this is happening. And like Wes Craven is like strapped to a chair while he's like trying to film it. And they also didn't account for when they flipped it and poured all the blood in, that the weight of just the water, because they used a lot of water to create that blood, the weight of that just like made this massive container just like start shifting and swaying. And so like if you watch that scene, the blood kind of like moves a little weird, and that's literally just because it like offset the balance of this rig. And it pretty much like it almost collapsed and everything. And somehow they still pulled off the shot. I have a quote. I guess Wes Craven described it as the Ferris wheel from hell when they filmed it, which I was like, oh, that's sick. But yeah, like cables were like snapping, and people, getting electrocuted and stuff like that. But they got the shot, so that's all that matters.
The
Yeah,
Craven
that's
prompts
nuts,
and
man. That is legendary, that they get that stuff, and sometimes you have to risk it to do some
Mhm.
real art. But at the same time, that's crazy, man. I mean, think about Twilight Zone, like you were saying earlier. It's like anything can go wrong, and
Yeah.
if you're not on top of that stuff, like you could literally kill somebody. It's crazy.
No, I didn't mention what the Twilight Zone thing was just because I feel like it's so famous, but I'll mention it for
Mhm.
anybody listening that doesn't know, just because we are like kind of touching on what all these faux pas are. In the Twilight Zone, John Landis pretty much told a helicopter to fly a little lower than it should have, and it ended up collapsing onto an actor and two children and killing them instantly. And yeah, it's been a famous thing. And so
Gnarly.
yeah, it's rough, which sucks because I love that movie. That segment's my least favorite segment, anyways. I just love the segment where the kid has like the imagination and everything he imagines becomes real. I think Joe Dante did that segment, if I'm not mistaken, and I fucking love that. It's like my favorite segment of any anthology movie ever. So uh, I'm like big on it, but sucks that that segment like taints that film a little bit. But and then of course
Mhm.
I love the wraparound with Dan Aykroyd and Al Brooks. I think Albert Brooks. So. Is it Albert Brooks?
Yeah,
Mm,
you're right, Albert
Yeah.
Brooks.
Yeah. I couldn't remember exactly, but I was like, if it was Al Brooks or Albert Brooks, but or what he goes by. But hell yeah. But the only thing I have to kind of piggyback on the prop side of things, which I guess one of my other ones might be, but I'll save it for a little later because it could be another thing. But I don't really have any more segments except for, well, I guess two of my things could be put together technically. So I'll go with this
mm.
one and then go on. But so I actually have two that'll work within the prop thing. So I'll go ahead with one, and then if you have another one. But for mine, it's Jason Lives, part six, where Tom McLaughlin almost killed his own wife, Nancy McLaughlin. She's the woman that is in the scene where, she famously says the line, I've seen enough horror movies to know that any weirdo wearing a mask is
Mm.
unfriendly. And but then he like harpoons through the windshield,
Mhm.
and when he does, they didn't like take an account that like the harpoon might like shift when it hits, like when it breaks through the windshield. So it's supposed to go through like way away from her, but it shifted and like went directly towards her.
Oh
And she
God.
like just barely evaded it pretty much. And so and if I'm not mistaken, there's also in that same scene, the guy that like gets his head put down in the puddle. If I'm not mistaken, something happened where he almost drowned, but I didn't get that fact up because I knew exactly the Nancy thing, but I didn't look up the other one for sure. But Tom McLaughlin is a nice dude, though. Past guest of the show as well. So shout out, Tommy.
Yeah, the prop thing's interesting because it's like you like some of these scenes, it's like you can't like you can only test it so much, you know what I mean? And then there could be like so many factors like wind or whatever, and then yeah, you're just on set and all of a sudden it's whoops,
Yeah.
like
Especially shooting on
yeah.
film and stuff like back then. So, uh, have you ever had anything, Mikey, where you've had I'm sure you had anything go as crazy as like Wes Craven with like the electrical stuff, but have you had anything like accidentally poke anybody? I know there's been times in which that's more of like a prop master thing, somebody handing like an accidental sharp knife or something. But have you ever had anything like where you like did makeup and it accidentally well, it wouldn't be makeup, but have you ever created anything? Or I know you do a lot of sculpting. Have you ever sculpted anything that accidentally fuck somebody up, whether it was user error, you know what I mean? But
I can't really think of anything that went wrong like that, but it's because we took precautions that are pretty like important and practical. Like there's
yeah,
been times where like you made like a set of teeth for a guy that's going to wear them like for a monster suit, and
Mhm.
and they're about to go in in a box and get sent to set, and it's like, wait a minute, we didn't make a stunt version of those teeth, and that guy's got a bunch of stunts to do. So it's like what people don't realize is you're putting like actual dental acrylic in your mouth. It's like wearing an actual denture, and that's hard against your teeth. So if you take a stuntman's punch to the mouth, like you'll actually smash your own teeth out. You know what I mean? A
Oh
lot of people
gosh.
don't account for stuff like that because they think, oh well, we don't have the time or the money or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, you have to think about that stuff because this is actual like you'll destroy someone's jaw or all their dental work, whatever it is. So it's like you need to have stunt versions of everything. It's the same thing with props, right?
Mm.
If you have an axe in the scene, Savini was famous for like using a real axe at a certain point, right? And Friday the 13th, the axe has to hit the light bulb first, so you know that it's a real axe and the light bulb's spinning around. But then when the axe comes into frame with the actor, it's not the real axe, it's the foam version of that axe. But it's like if you're on set and you've got four axes and you know which one's supposed to be in the actual frame with the actor and which one isn't, you have to really keep that stuff, in check. Otherwise, you got people swinging real axes around. And the problem is you can have 10 different types of foam, right? So if I
Mm.
make a foam axe doesn't necessarily mean it's safe. You could still poke somebody's eye out with it. You're not supposed to be like cracking people with these things at like full speed and stuff like that. And in the case of like the Tom McLaughlin situation, it's like you can go real harpoon all the way, and then when you get to the point where there's an actor in the actual frame, then it's got to be fake harpoon. It's got to be fake windshield. It's got to be fake everything. And that's why movies take so long and make so much. They're so expensive to make because
Mm.
everything has to be worked out that way. I didn't even know a lot about this stuff because I don't do a lot of time on set. But a few times I've been on set, I'm actually surprised by what's fake. You know what I mean? Some guy has to fall on a staircase, but what you don't realize is the third stair that he's supposed to land on, they actually pull the stair out and insert like a dummy stair. And
Mm.
that's really soft, and it's like that it won't hurt the guy or whatever. Or they have, like this soft kind of linoleum that looks like the wooden hardwood floor, and they can actually lift it up and put mats underneath it, and then put that back down so when even the stunt guy takes a fall, he's not taking a fall on hard wood. It's actually
Mhm.
pretty incredible if it's done right. But
Sure.
no, and
Yeah. That's,
actually, I have a perfect like stunt gone wrong to piggyback off of that is when they do the padding and stuff, and the actor still goes so hard that they break their fucking nose, like Alex Wolff in Hereditary. They padded that desk, and he was like, "Oh, I want a real desk," and they're like, "No, dude, like." A padded desk is fine, and he still fucking broke his nose on a padded desk. So it's
oh
like,
dang, I didn't know that
oh
one.
yeah.
yeah, he really breaks his nose in that scene just going for it and stuff. So no, and in that case, they did what they were supposed to on the effects side, or at least they did what they thought that they could, and he just went so hard that he fully broke his shit. So,
That's
uh,
crazy.
but
That's why Savini would get in like a blonde wig and pretend in a dress and get hit by cars and stuff like that. Because it's like you don't want to
Hmm.
risk the actor. You got to risk the stuntmen will take so
Hmm.
much risk, but it's kind of crazy. There's that one shot in Pet Cemetery where that one actor that plays Lewis, he comes out of that nightmare, in the bed and smacks his head on the I guess the end table
Mm.
in the in his bedroom. That always got me because I mean I don't know if that's a fake, you know, little end table or not, but he really nails his face on that thing, and it's like such a great shot. It's like how do
Mm.
you do that otherwise? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, there's like plenty of movies that I'm sure if we look it up, there's like real falls that they're like that we got to keep that. So I'm sure that was one of those
Oh
things that
yeah.
Pet Cemetery. He just smoked his head and
Mm.
died. Mary Lambert was like, "Fuck him, let's
You
put
got to have a real
him."
fall, not like the fall. That's my only complaint of the movie Sinners is that fall scene from the second floor of that the juke joint when he falls out the window and it looks so odd. But
Looks like classic Hollywood, where it's like there's padding down there or something.
yeah, it's just so unnatural. Yeah, gotta have that real fall. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was kind of my only other prop one. Did you have some more you wanted to shout out, Steven? I only
Uh,
really have like one more gone wrong. Well,
mm.
I got two, but one of them's like a super famous one that we haven't mentioned yet, and then one kind of goes along
Mm.
with it. But
Yeah, there's another nightmare one that's pretty fun. It was in Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And there's like the end scene where like Freddy is like you see all hit the souls in his body, you know? They built like a 20-foot like Freddy chest or whatever. And the front of his body is like this like latex like dental dam that the makeup crew made, and so they have like these actors in it, and they're like pressing in it. And fun fact, Linnea Quigley is actually in that scene. And yeah, so they're just like mashing into this like thin latex to like look like they're stuck in his body. There's like a behind the scenes, there's like video of it, you can find it online, and it's like they're doing it, and I love it too because like they have Linnea on set and you can hear the director being like, Linnea, press your chest out more, and it just to get the classic Linnea in there. And so they're doing this scene and it's like it looks really cool, and then all of a sudden this whole thing just comes tumbling forward. I mean, it's the actors that are flipping over inside of it. There's like the puppeteers that are like holding on to like the arms, and like the guy in the back of it, you just see them all like go flying. Apparently everybody was fine. Nobody, probably just minor injuries. I also read that right after that, I don't know if she's still with this person, but Linnea Quigley's boyfriend at the time proposed to her right after that, right after she came out of the suit, was like, "Hey, you want to get married? You okay?" But yeah.
I think it's probably because it was Steve Johnson, right? Like the
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
that
it was a
actually
Steve
built
Johnson.
that
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he not only almost killed these actors, he almost killed his future wife in there
So
too, you
that
know?
was that was Linnea. So Steven Johnson was his.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't
They
know
were
that. That's
married.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think after that at that point.
Mm.
But yeah, he almost killed his own wife there. It's so funny. You can definitely tell it's her though, like you said, they're
Mhm.
telling her, giving her specific directions. Like Linnea, more chest,
More
you know what I mean?
chest, more
Yeah.
chest.
Linnea and her Quigleys.
Uncredited though, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Now, freaking him and Tom McLaughlin need to start a club about fucking trying to kill their wives. What's up with that?
What the hell, man?
No,
I guess it's a good story, right? If you want to kill your wife, you do it on set and goes an accident. Oh,
I didn't
it was
mean to.
it was the latex.
that's sick. It's so I love that effect though. That's genius, man. You just build
Oh
an
yeah.
entire like huge Freddy chest. I'm
Mhm.
like, God, man, they don't do anything like that anymore, you know?
Totally. Oh, and that's the thing. I love that. I love that somebody can sit down and decide like, oh, scale will fix this. Like whether you need to go bigger or smaller to like get the shot, like to me that's like so fascinating. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
You guys are geniuses. So,
Did you guys see what was that one with Foo Fighters? What was the Foo
Oh
Fighters
yeah,
horror
Studio
movie?
666.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's got a great kind of scale effect in it. At one point, this wire comes like flying into a dude's like open eye,
Mhm.
and at Todd Masters effects, they built this huge eyeball that was like this big, like the size of a
Whoa.
beach ball, and it had like an eyelid and everything was silicone, it was like perfectly, punched eyelashes and all this stuff like that, and like all the pore texture and stuff like that. You could see the iris; it was perfect. Everything looked so real, and they just shot it. You know, I guess it would be like I don't even know what the scale would be. You know what I mean? Like 60 times bigger or something like that. And that's what they got that really great shot out of. It was pretty sick.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah.
No, another self plug. I had BJ McDonald who directed that movie on the podcast. He directed that in Hatchet 3. So, uh,
Oh, nice, nice. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I really enjoyed that film. It was one of my favorites of the year, just because I'm not even a big
Mhm.
Foo Fighters fan. Like I like their hits and stuff, but
Yeah.
like I that f film was so fun. At the time, I was working at the movie theater, so I could just go watch whatever, whenever for free.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And I ended up being like, this was a fucking blast. Like the music's
Oh,
heavier
yeah.
than I
Mhm.
expected, and like there's so many horror references and all this stuff. So and
And
Carrie
they did
King.
such a good job of like the band acting in it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like sometimes like obviously that's the setup and like, well, we're gonna have the band. We're not gonna cast actors to play the members of the Foo Fighters. So you never know what you're gonna get in that kind of scenario. And I guess you could assume like Dave Grohl can probably act pretty decently, but yeah, I mean they all crushed it. It was good.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised by that too because I was like, oh no, this is gonna be so bad because
Hmm.
you got to get actors. Actors act, but they did a great job.
Yeah.
But you were gonna have Manny on today, I think, right? Manny Lemus, and
Yeah.
he did a lot of those effects in that that
Mm.
that crazy chainsaw scene. That would like Manny put most of that thing together and like really like kind of orchestrated that. He's a genius when it comes to like real physical effects like that with silicones and all kinds of stuff.
Oh
You
yeah.
know. It'd be interesting conversation too with him about how they did that, if what when they were using real chainsaws, when they weren't, and all
Hmm.
that stuff. Because that's like a hard setup, a real, involved effect like that. There's probably 10 different setups, with 10 different, ways of doing things from different angles and stuff. But that was another impressive effect in that scene. I mean, in that movie.
Now he's come on the show before for like a like the regular interview thing.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that or else I definitely would have picked his brain about it. But he did do one of the effects that I considered shouting out as like one of the effects I think will stick with people because it's my personal favorite effect. No offense to anybody else out there doing effects, but my personal favorite effect of the past 20 years is what Manny did with the Mitzi scene at the end of Pearl. Well, spoiler alert for
Mm.
Pearl. But when it shows Mitzi, and it's not even just his effect, but it's the way that the whole thing's put together. But when Pearl kills Mitzi, and then you see her like getting like chopped, her body getting chopped up, that just looked so like it looked so grindhouse and like exploitation, and like the way that it's fit, like not only because it looks so real with the way that it showed everything, and like her just taking the decapitated head and throwing it out to the gator and shit, but it was like that along with the like kaleidoscope of everything. It's just like I don't know, it was like uh it's probably to me the most like out of all these like retro style films, it's the one that felt the most like 70s uh
Mm.
compared to everything in my opinion. But like 70s like like Herschel Gordon Lewis type shit, you know what I mean? Not like the mainstream 70s stuff. But and of course,
Yeah, Manny's a badass. He's really good at that stuff. I've seen him kind of go from A to Z with those types of effects, and it's kind of genius. It's like real technical engineering stuff too. Like, it's one thing. I'm just like thinking creatively, like making stupid sculptures and stuff like that. But a lot of these guys are like engineers, the way they break all this stuff down. It's
Sure.
unbelievable.
you know, no, yeah, you guys killed it with fucking this. I still say one of my favorite things of the past decade as well, and is the smile creature at the end of that film. The monster is phenomenal. You know what I mean? That sticks out. So, and that's one of those things that just is also like you guys built that motherfucker like that. Y'all didn't
Hmm.
scale it down or nothing. It's huge. So, that's a wild behind the scenes thing to see. That's one of those
Hmm.
things that it's so crazy to see, like like see the behind the scenes look and then actually see like what ended up on camera is fucking insane. But
Yeah, yeah, we were lucky that that stuff got on camera because a lot of times they'll shoot stuff, but then that stuff never sees the light of day or it gets covered in so much CG that it might as well not have ever been like a
Sure.
physical effect. But yeah, we lucked out on Smile and Smile too.
yeah.
I always want more of that stuff. I'm like, oh man, I wish they showed the puppet even more. But
Hmm.
it's not about the puppet. It's not about me. It's like, oh man, they just have to kind of get the point across and get that feeling in there, elicit the emotion, and I think those movies do a great job doing that. But me, I'm just like I want to see more rubber monsters.
Right.
Hmm.
Hell yeah. And some good gore for sure. But do you have anything else that you want to shout out? Steven, did you have any more stories or
I mean, those were all the like most interesting ones to me. I thought about talking about like the Crow and that prop one, but I mean, I feel like that one's been talked about so much and everything,
Yeah.
that doesn't really need to get brought up on the show. But yeah, I mean, that was the bulk majority of it. Everything else is like small stuff, like just like especially like the older like 80s like horror films with how do you pronounce it? Is it sclera contact lenses, like the old hard plastic?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like so many stories about people just having to like wear these most agonizing contact lenses that cover your whole eyeball and it's just straight up plastic. I think I saw that like in Fright Night they had to like they realized like one of the actors like it like scratched his cornea. They had to like sand down the edges. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. This actually I know it's uncomfortable, but it's like actually legit uncomfortable for you. It's like doing damage to your eye. My bad. And like Evil Dead, same thing. Like, the actors were like, you couldn't see. Like you wear these plastic lenses, and I think they even said like in the first one, like Bruce Campbell was like putting on contact lenses for people, and you're like, they have to like pry your eyes open just to, because it's not just like going over your, main part of your eye. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I think we covered all the like big stuff that I had for sure. So
Oh
Even
yeah.
even the soft scleral lenses that they have today, they're super uncomfortable and crazy,
really,
But they had ones that, like you said, were thick plastic, but also glass.
oh
So it's
God.
like, yeah, it's almost like half of a glass ball and
Mm,
sticking it in your eye. And back in like the 70s and stuff, maybe even early 80s, they would
mm.
put those in and have the actors hold their eyes open while they were doing the live cast. So
Oh
the
wow.
the live casting, impression material was actually resting on that,
Gosh.
like half an orb of glass, so you
Mm,
could get the impression of someone with their eyes open. They stopped doing that at a certain point though, and they're just like,
mm,
look, we'll just hand this off to the sculptor later in
mm,
clay, and they can open the eyes, manually in the sculpture, and then we recast and all that stuff like that. So that's a big thing that I've had to do on a lot of projects instead of like putting your actor through like agonizing torture. You know what I mean?
mm. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I can only imagine. Yeah. Again, they had to figure out a way to do it, so that way we could do it better nowadays. So
Right. I know you
I
always
think in
hear.
Lost Boys, it was easy to get Kiefer Sutherland to cry because he had those things stuffed in his eyes. You know what I mean? Like at the end, like
Right.
yeah. Oh, I love that. I love like there's like even with Evil Dead, I loved hearing the stories. I mean, Bruce Campbell got put through the ringer so much in that film. And I love reading that like Sam Raimi, like he'd like messed up his ankle while filming. And so to get like better reactions out of him, he would like constantly like whack him in his hurt ankle just so he'd get pissed off and stuff. And I'm like, I just love that. I love like, I mean, again, that's just whether it's the makeup that like pushes people, because they're uncomfortable, so they get like a crazy response on camera or whatever. I love that, again, it's like the physical nature that brings it out of you. So,
No, uh kind of to speak on Evil Dead, I wasn't even going to bring it up because it's not like a specific practical effect, but uh I guess it is kind of specific, but they truly buried Jane Levy alive for the Evil Dead reboot in
oh, really?
2013, and apparently she does not fuck with Fede Alvarez because of that and stuff. So that the end of the movie where they like where he buries her and then immediately like digs her back up, like that's all happening in real time apparently, and like it like fucked with her and stuff, and it's wild that she agreed to do it because she was at a convention that I was
Mm,
at where I actually got to meet Sam Raimi. It was like the only person I went to meet, and I was in like waiting in line for him all day, which 100% worth it, not complaining. But and he's the sweetest dude ever. And what's crazy is fucking they announced that he was going to do magic like a year and a half ago. And then like I literally asked him like at the convention like over a year ago, like, "Hey man, are you still doing magic?" "Yeah, I'm working on getting the rights." And then just recently, like some Mandela effect, they announced, "Hey, Sam Raimi's doing magic." I'm like, "They fucking
hmm,
announced it 2 years ago. It's just been in limbo." Like it's wild
mm.
how they'll re-announce news and people just act like it's fucking new. Like, "Oh, dude, like, did you not remember seeing this like 2 years ago?"
Oh gosh.
But either way, she walked through and was very like hand sanitizer, had a mask on, and this was like way past the pandemic, and like she was very like didn't want to touch anybody. She was very like germophobic, and then she got overwhelmed very quick by the convention and left. And I'm like, it's wild that she handled being buried alive and then got overwhelmed by a convention. I guess different things for different people, but it's just
Sure.
I was just like, damn, that's fucking wild. I was like, I can imagine how rough it must have been for her if like something like that was like hard on her, you know what I mean? And stuff. Because I can 100% understand like conventions are overwhelming for me. That's why I go for like one person. I don't try to do multiple people or anything because if so, I just can't do it. But I also can't afford it nowadays. Holy shit.
Mhm.
But no, two final ones. I just wanted to mention, her being buried alive because we're still chatting about Evil Dead a little bit, and they still. I feel like that's one thing that Bruce Campbell said when they weirdly were having him promote Evil Dead Rise instead of the actual actors that are in the movie. But when Evil Dead Rise came out, they had Bruce Campbell go on like a press tour for it, and he kept saying that his advice to all the actors is if you don't come out of this feeling like you got in a car accident, then you didn't live the Evil Dead experience and shit like that, pretty much. So,
Yeah.
no, it's like a badge of honor. I'm excited for the new one and stuff, but my final two are mechanical based, and the first one being the most famous one, Jaws. Of course, Bruce the Shark didn't work for shit, and it probably made the movie better in a lot of people's opinion. Just with the way that they couldn't show as much of the shark as they might have, and stuff. Which the shark looked great, so who's to say it might have looked awesome, but
Mhm.
but the one that I heard that was kind of that I didn't know about until today. I was listening to Tony Gardner on Postmortem with Mick Garris, and he mentioned that when he first joined the Chucky franchise, it was on Seed of Chucky, and of course they had to build the robots for Glenn and Glinda, which there's one character with two names. So it was only one doll at the time. Now they've split apart within the series and stuff, so I'm sure it's more now. But or I think they're live people in the series now, but there's two of them. They're separated. Either way, that's a whole convoluted thing. But in that at the time, he had to create the three dolls. He had to do Tiffany, he had to do Glenn and Glinda, and then he had to do Chucky. But Chucky had to be accurate to the end of Bride of Chucky with all the scars and stuff. And he even was mentioning how back then you had to like pause the VHS tape and like print that, because you couldn't just go on Google and be like Chucky, see, so literally he said he was like like going through Xerox like printed off of the VHS, and so they go to Romania to shoot, and they didn't. I guess they nobody uh like checked with the power supply of everything, and so like within the first week or two, they blew up the computer that animated the mouse of all the dolls.
Oh, dang.
So and like that's something like that's like the biggest, probably the most complicated part as far as the mechanics go, in my opinion, with those. Because if they the mouse are what make Chucky feel so alive. You know what I mean? In my opinion, so I'm sure that he didn't really talk about how he fixed it. He was just talking about how it hicked
Mm.
up, but or how it was a hiccup. But it's wild to me that I couldn't imagine going over, especially being out of country where not only do you got to figure this shit out now, but you got to figure it out with a language barrier. So
Mhm.
and a fucking power barrier. You know what I mean? Like you got to adjust for their power supply and stuff. So. But have you ever dealt with anything like that? I know that you sometimes deal with like you do more sculpting and effects and stuff, but have you ever dealt with mechanics or anything being like attached to your thing that can't quite get it right, or it's gone wrong on set, or even if it's not yours, have you just been around somebody working on something?
Yeah, yeah. I was actually in Bulgaria working on this movie. I won't say what the name of the movie is. I'm not trying to like get anyone in trouble or whatever, but
Mhm.
um we had a creature like mask on, fully animatronic. And I don't know what happened if like the voltage was too heavy coming from the battery into the motors, but it started smoking, right?
Ooh.
And it's like inches, if not directly against your actor's face, right? And it starts to smoke, and the actor's in there and they can't even get out of the suit without your help, right? So they have to call cut. Everyone runs in. Obviously, they make sure everything's okay. Nobody was hurt. It is what it is. But that motor is toasted, and you are in a different country, and like you're saying, you have all these different power discrepancies in between the two different countries and all kinds of stuff like that. Luckily, they had this really awesome team of like effects dudes out there that were like, we can fix this, we can figure this out. And so the Americans and the Bulgarians kind of got together and were able to fix everything and make it safe, and again, figure it out. But on the day, it's scary as hell, right? You don't want any smoke on set anywhere, let alone inside the thing that the actor's wearing on his head. It's like, it was wild.
Especially coming from electronics, because usually when there's smoke, there's fire or an explosion, and it's like if that thing explodes on their head, you might have a Suicide Squad situation going on.
Oh yeah, and I'm again, I don't know anything, so I'm like standing there with some clay, like, what, can I help? It's like I don't know how to do any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Like I try to fix things with clay, like I don't know. I mean, I could
Like,
sculpt the thing, but I have no idea what's going on as far as I have to wire something to something else. I'm like, no, that's not. I can't. I don't know how to do that.
it's like,
That's
did you
funny.
try turning it off and back on?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Give
Is
it
it
30 seconds and then boot it up again.
is that like a normal thing within like effects teams where like the makeup or like sculpting guys are like, look, I made this prosthetic or this like you can't do this to my piece. You're gonna just rip it, like where you guys are like, quit trying to do it this way, or is it pretty like everybody's on the same page and like, nah, yeah, we got you.
It's very rare when everyone's on the same page, but if you're
Okay.
like with if you're with the right people and everyone's like
Hmm.
working together, you should have everyone involved in as many of the decisions as you possibly can. Obviously, it's impossible to
Hmm.
micromanage all that type of stuff, but yeah, I've been in a ton of different things where it's like, "No, why would you do that to this?" Like, I don't understand. I worked on, this Predator movie, right?
Hmm.
And I'm just like, guys, like, why do you guys want his little mandibles to point directly down, like at his nipples? Like, why would he ever do that? It's unnecessary. Like, what, like, the physiology of this character, the biology of it, it swings out this way. It doesn't point
Hmm.
like down. Well, we got to be careful because if the director wants it to do that, it needs to be able to do that. And I'm like, no, you tell them no, it doesn't do that. That looks ridiculous. You know what I
That's
mean?
funny.
It's like these little fingers like coming out of his face. I'm like, it's not it's like part of his skull, man. It doesn't look scary if you do it that way. But nobody listens to the sculptors.
Well, you guys are, I mean, y'all are like literally creating I mean, you could have like the concept artist that sketches it. I don't know if that's how that usually happens. Like if you guys are concepting and then taking your sculpt from your own sketches, or if you're like given a concept sketch and like, hey, make this. But I feel like as the sculptor, like you're taking something that is probably like a 2D flat idea, even if you have the different turns of what the sketch is. Um, but yeah, you're literally like developing like anatomy for monsters and stuff like that. So if anything, you guys are like, nope, I know how these bones work. So
Yeah, that's my job usually is to take something from 2D to 3D, and
mm,
usually it's a way better concept artist than me is giving us something cool, usually from production or something like that. And then
mm,
our job is to just take it into the clay. But every once in a while, if I get lucky, there isn't a design or something like that, and I get to infuse a little bit of my own ideas into the way this thing looks, which is pretty awesome.
yeah, that's
But
sick.
yeah, it just depends. But then of course that has to go to the next department and the next department, the next department. And it's like the person that's making this thing move or the person that's inside this thing, I mean, they kind of get the final say, and they're not going to invite me on set to go like, hey man, should he be doing that? And I'm like, they don't care what I think, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Usually they're so good at their job that they wind up doing something I never even would have thought about anyway. And it always makes it better. So that's what you're always hoping is that like
sure.
it just keeps getting better and better. For the most part, though, with me, it's like winds up not even being in the film. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You're like, oh, okay, that whole thing we spent like 3, 4 months on is just not even in the movie now. It's just a bunch of CG stuff.
Yeah,
That's the worst.
that's a bummer because you're like, yeah, 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 here comes my what the heck?
Yeah,
Bums.
literally. Like I'm at a theater. I just paid to see this thing and I'm all excited and it's not even in there. It's
Hmm.
the worst.
Hmm.
Well, famously, you literally worked on the thing, if I'm not mistaken, right? The one that got CGI just plastered all
Hmm.
over it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I worked on that. That was like my first big sculpting gig too. And it was heartbreaking because I'm such a, John Carpenter's The Thing is one of
Sure.
my favorite movies of all time. And just having anything to do with that would have been amazing. And I mean, they got a lot of our stuff in there. It's like some of it's on camera, but then other
Hmm.
parts they just totally scrapped stuff. And we were like heartbroken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely with like the
that's true.
legacy of the thing and where it stands in practical effects, I can only imagine.
Oh
Right.
yeah, yeah. It's the best. It's everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
There's just like, it's a perfect movie.
Oh shoot, even my daughter loves it. She asked, that's like one of the horror films that like older ones that she'll ask to rewatch and like wouldn't have
That's cool.
expected a, you know, 13-year-old girl, 12-year-old girl that likes a movie that's so like it's like it's not like, I mean, yeah, it has cool effects and stuff like that, so I think that keeps up the action and the entertainment, but it is kind of like a slower burn. It's moody and like, and it's not happy, but she loves it. And I was like, sweet. Yeah. I mean, I think, she just loves all the effects and the creatures and everything that the alien does. So,
That's so cool. It must be awesome to share that too with another generation and like, you
oh,
know.
it's been fun. And Tim does the same thing with his son too. Like he's all into it too. But yeah.
Yeah, I show my 5-year-old stuff I shouldn't, that's for sure. But
That's
we
awesome.
he dug Thrash, that new shark movie on
Mhm.
Netflix. I don't know if you check that out yet, but it's fun. They don't use practical effects, but it's good enough in my opinion. So
It
uh,
it was actually like all the practical effects that like helped me I guess like encourage her to want to watch some scarier films too, because I'd be like, hey, like if this is freaking you out, like we can talk about like how do they do this? Like this isn't an actual monster. This isn't, you know what I mean? So like when we started, I'd be like, watch this behind the scenes, and I'd pull up this, and she'd be like, whoa, that's so cool. She even did like a little like theater camp locally here, and they had it was like you could pick like the different segments that you wanted to do, whether it was like Shakespeare or whatever, and she did like a makeup effects thing, and like
Oh, that's so
it
cool.
was just like a week long thing, and they only get like 2 hours each day, in it. And but like one day she comes out and she's got like a pencil sticking out of her. She's like, Dad, check this out, like so it was that was sick. To like I'm like I never got to do that as a kid. Like, I remember getting like I got super into horror movies in college, and like on a less mainstream level. And then it wasn't until after art school that I was like, oh man, like people can go to like I learned about like Savini's school, and I was like, people could just go do that for school. That's sick. Like I went to school for drawing. I want to go do this. This is rad. But
Oh yeah, that's what I was obsessed with, and I started, just like your daughter, like just being into the behind the scenes stuff, and
mm,
like all the stuff that scared the hell out of me, and I couldn't even sleep when I was a kid, became my favorite stuff later when
mm,
I learned, that this was people making this stuff out of foam and silicones and stuff, rubbers. And so, in the 80s, it was cool because there was always TV shows, and into the 90s, like Movie Magic and stuff like that,
mm.
and Standby Lights, Camera, Action, all this stuff. Even like reading Rainbow, they like LeVar Burton would bring on like an effects dude, and show like the behind the scenes how you do,
Mm.
a prosthetic mask or whatever, and or like Letterman, would have on Savini or something like
Yeah.
that, like, and that stuff was fascinating to me. Like, I want to be one of those guys. I want to do that stuff. But now, like, your daughter can go and watch like full-blown tutorials now
Mm.
from, industry badasses and learn all the materials like start to finish. And it's
Mm.
like that never existed back then. So now it's like it's
Totally.
even better, and everything has behind the scenes featurettes. I honestly want more of that type of stuff, honestly.
I agree. I agree.
So cool.
and it creates people like Damien Leone, that go out there and just make, films, and then they learn to do practical effects because they can, and it makes some of the
Hmm.
coolest practical effects that, out there, just
Oh yeah.
because they're making it work like they did in the 80s, you know what I mean, instead of having it, available and stuff. But no, that's one thing I'm excited about, is the future of like movies just in general now, because practical effects are more alive than ever. Like you mentioned Primate earlier, that's something else that I was like super stoked on when I watched that, is the fact that they put a guy
Mm.
in a suit, and it looks so fucking awesome. And I think that
Oh yeah.
that like really makes that film stand out. So no, I'm excited to see, some more effects coming up soon. But do you have any other stories or anything, Mikey, that we didn't get to, or that kind of popped in your head throughout, that just didn't really fit with what we were talking about? And I mean, you mentioned plenty, so if you don't have any more, then definitely no biggie. But
I'm trying to think like where we were at. Um, I have a cool story. It's not my story, but this is a cool story that I was told by Matt Rose. Matt Rose was one of the guys that worked on the original Predator.
Mm.
He died a few years ago, unfortunately, like super young, but he was like a legend. Like he's
Hmm.
like one of my artistic idols, one of the nicest dudes ever. And I kind of just judge my career on like who I worked with, you know what I mean? Not how good I am, but if I can work with people that I, was like looking up to and reading about when I was 10 years old, like that's how I kind of judge like my success. And Matt was one of the best that ever did it. But he told me this awesome story. Him and Steve Lang made the Predator suit, and they were like super young when they came to Stan Winston Studios, and they kind of like changed things over there. Like they were like, the new kids on the block that like blew
Hmm.
everybody's mind. And so they went to Mexico. They're shooting the suit on Kevin Peter Hall. Everybody knows all those stories. But Matt was telling me that everyone knows that one scene where um Arnold sets the trap for the predator and he kicks out that one, like pulley, and that whole tree trunk comes down and crushes the predator's head.
Mm.
So they made this kind of dummy version of the predator, and they had the actual head, like the hero head of the predator on this thing. And when the log came down and hit it, they were just supposed to reset it every time or whatever. And it was all foam stuff, so nothing was going to get destroyed. But in one of the takes, like in the middle of the take, the head popped off and rolled down the hill into a campfire that I guess the crew had actually built. And so Steve and Steve Wang and Matt both laughed in the take, and they wound up laughing like into the frame, and they hadn't called cut yet, so they couldn't even really even use the
Oh
take.
no.
They're like, what, cut, go get the head. And they're like, the head is on fire in the camp, like in their actual campfire. So they had to all run down the hill and like try to put the head out and still try to use it somehow. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And unfortunately, that was the hero head. They had stunt versions, but this was the hero one. It was at the end of the shoot. But what happened was they were like, okay, well, we don't really need the hero head anymore. It's unfortunately it's destroyed. There's a big hole in it. It's got like fire burns and stuff on it, But the funny thing was that they called from the production company, a few weeks later, and they're like, hey, we need to do promo shots of this thing. And they were like, what are you talking about? We burned it in Mexico. Like it literally like lit on fire and melted. And so Matt had to come in himself and try to like, fix it. And
Oh,
some of the
crazy.
promo shots that you see of the Predator that are the most famous, that's the head after it's been repaired,
Oh,
That's
which is
crazy.
pretty
crazy.
nuts.
Oh
Damn.
yeah. No, that's
That's a good one.
iconic. Predator was
Pretty
one I
sick.
was super late to. I actually didn't see the first Predator until like about 5 or 6 years ago. And
No way. Really?
yeah, I was
Oh,
blown
I
away
love that
too. I
one.
was like, this fucking rules. But I was just late to a lot of Arnold movies just because
Mm.
weirdly, which is wild because my stepdad is a massive Arnold fan, so he
Mm.
like grew up always talking about him and like this and that, but he only watched like he wasn't a big rewatcher of movies. So
Mm.
like by the time I was old enough to watch movies with him, I was watching like the bad Arnold. Like I was watching like Terminator 3 and like my first Terminator was Terminator 3 just because it was like the one that came out when I was old enough to start watching it. And then like I saw like I think Eraser, the one where he's like got like a clone or something like that, and was the one the Sixth Man or some shit. Like those were the types of
Mm.
Arnold movies I was seeing. So
Dude,
That's
I
funny.
I remember like late 90s, early 2000s, like going to the mall when they would have like the pop-up. I'm sure it was like a Spencer's or something like that. And, they would get the changeover for Halloween, and it was always the Predator mask that I was like, if I had the money and I could just buy this thing, because I always just thought that was like the coolest creature design ever. Like just the mouth and everything. Yeah, that thing is so sick.
oh yeah,
Yeah, that's my favorite. That's why Matt is a genius in my book, because imagine I mean they were like 19 or 20 years old and they created that creature. It like seriously
That's crazy.
changed everything.
you know, no, hell
So
yeah.
wild.
Well, no, hell yeah, man. It's been a blast having you back on the show, and it was fun chatting about just practical effects gone wrong with you or gone wild, I should say. If I should have thrown back on my infomercial voice for that one, but before I let you go, do you want to just remind people about, anything, Halloween Shindig and of course, what projects you got coming out or
Yeah, check out Halloween Shindig. It's pretty fun. Hopefully, we'll have a new episode coming up here pretty soon. But that's basically it. You can hit me up on Instagram. It's just Mikey Rots on Instagram, and see whatever I'm working on and anything fun. And if everybody has any questions about makeup effects or whatever, I'm always on there. So just keep it going. Thanks for having me though, guys. I had a blast.
of course, hell yeah. It was a blast
Yeah,
chatting
this
with you.
Anytime.
this was super fun. I mean, I think this is the kind of stuff that like, especially, I mean, film fans and horror fans, especially like getting like these little stories and whatnot. Like, I don't know, just makes it cooler. But
Yeah. No, hell yeah.
It's my favorite.
No, and I feel like practical effects, like even the like even mainstream fans have gotten more appreciative of them nowadays. You know what I mean? So it's not even just like the diehard fans. You know, like
Hmm.
I feel like even they're starting to realize like how much better stuff looks when it's like in front of the camera. Like even with stuff like Obsession and you
Hmm.
know, like the Terrifier films getting so popular, or the Substance. It's just all this stuff like uh those things are obviously catching fire a little bit like bigger than the last few Insidious movies, or the ones
Hmm.
that are just like covering themselves with CGI and stuff like that. So no, it's nice to see. But no, hell yeah. But
It's changing the whole industry too. I know you guys are noticing that. It's like, these movies are making millions and millions of dollars. I mean, Damien Leone, like you said, I mean, that guy, is in his garage making gore effects and stuff like that, and he like literally changed the industry. Like people had to notice what that guy was doing, and like, okay, I guess there is a market here, and it's time for us to like figure this out.
Hmm.
And then, you have The Substance, you have Sinners, you have now, Obsession, and all these things that are they're just like changing the whole game. And now there's like this is becoming the film industry now. Like that's what it is like the stuff that we've always known was valuable and cool. So it's
Hmm.
pretty awesome.
yeah,
Keep
hell
up
yeah.
the good fight.
No, it's even getting to the point where even like action films are returning to practical and stuff, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And just everybody's indulging. So, and hell yeah, more work for you guys. Just,
Yeah, we need it.
but hell yeah. And of course, check out The Burrows on Netflix if you haven't already. Check out Mikey's work. And
Yeah, I had a lot
uh,
of fun with that one. It was good.
yeah,
Yeah, I enjoyed it, which is rare, right? It's like
Mhm.
I work on this stuff and it's not always cool. So it's like, oh, this is actually pretty
Mhm.
cool. I'm glad, I'm proud of this.
Yeah, it had a real like I don't know, kind of like Spielbergy kind of vibe to it for sure that I really enjoyed and kind of missed. So
Yeah, definitely. Perfect.
no, yeah. Well, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for joining us.
You guys too. Take care and hit me up whenever, man. I'd love to do this again.
Of course,
yeah,
man.
super fun.